Did you just have a difficult experience with a border officer while trying to enter the US? If you're traveling to the US a lot, you know that there is always a risk of having a tough conversation with a customs and border officer. If that just happened to you, do not panic. We will cover everything you need to know in this video. We've helped so many couples navigate this journey effectively by avoiding issues like this, and to give you an idea, we just had someone who almost got deported at the border get approved for their green card in only 65 days. Here's what often happens. Let's imagine that you're in a situation where you visit the US frequently, maybe a few times per year or maybe slightly less. Most likely than not, it would be on a tourist visa. And for the sake of this video, since we're marriage green card people, we will assume that you come to visit your partner, but you're still doing the long distance thing, although you're slowly getting tired of it. Just as an example, we've had foreign partners who would enter for 2 months, then leave for a month or two, and then come back again for another 2 months or so. But then some couples travel to see each other less or more frequently, but you're getting the point. Normally, everything goes well. The CBP officer would, of course, ask about the purpose of visit. They would truthfully answer that they came to visit their partner, would be admitted, no issues. But the more the person comes and visits, the more likely they will hit a moment where a lot of questions will be asked. You obviously never know what type of an officer you will get, and sometimes when people try to enter, they face a challenging person who gives them a hard time. When this happens, when you are actually taken into a separate room for questioning, it is normally a pretty traumatic experience, and often couples are left puzzled as to what to do next. I mean, assuming that the foreign partner was admitted into the country, the couple obviously doesn't want to risk having this experience again. So they often consider getting married and going through the green card process, but before we cover that, let's discuss what actually happens during the secondary inspection. Which, real quick, if you ultimately decide to get married and go through this process, we would be happy to properly guide you through every step of this immigration journey to ensure that nothing this traumatic happens to you again. You can schedule a call directly with us using the link in the description below. All right, going back to secondary inspection, this is big because what happens here can go in so many different ways. I mean, we had members who had messages on their phones, read emails, the officer went through photos on their phone and compared all the dates. A lot of questions are usually asked. It's very stressful, and the officer would normally be pushing a person into an admission of some sort. They can also often call a partner. The US citizen would be at home waiting for their boyfriend or girlfriend to visit, but instead they receive a call from the CBP, and the officer would ask a series of questions to see if the answers align with the foreign partner standing in front of them. It can get intense, let's just say that. We just had 2 separate couples join our program who had no intention of getting married right now. In the future, 100%, but they weren't quite there yet. But they both had such a traumatic incident at the border, so many questions were asked, that they decided to get married and go through this process now, despite having tickets and everything else booked for summer trips in Europe and elsewhere. What Customs and Border Protection also likes doing is putting admission stamps in a passport with notations such as no AOS or limited stay. The good news is that the member of ours who I mentioned earlier, approved in 65 days, they had that stamp and still got approved, no questions asked, no interview. Those notations have little weight, but they certainly look scary and serve as a deterrent, preventing couples from pursuing their goals. The CBP can also admit a person for only 7 or 14 days instead of the typical 6 months. We've seen that happen a lot. You do need to check your I-94 online record to see how much time has been given to you, and we've included the link for that in the description below. And do not assume that because you're from a certain country, it is less or more likely to happen. This happens to Canadians all the time. Another member of ours was coming from Canada visiting her partner who was on active duty. The last time she tried to enter, they almost deported her, but by some miracle, she got a couple weeks in the country and got so traumatized that they just went ahead, got married, and applied. One last comment here on what to do if something like this was to happen to you. Obviously, you always have to be honest. Whatever discussion you're having with the CBP officer, it has to be truthful. You do need to know that when you apply for your green card, the immigration officer will review your entire file. They will double check all the information you provided to the CBP officer, so it is of course in your interest to avoid any inconsistencies. Either way, if something like this just happened to you, you definitely have a lot of questions, such as, okay, what do we we do now? Will I be able to enter the US next time? Does it mean that we have to get married and go through this process now? And if we do decide to get married, how do we go about it all? It is an endless loop of questions and concerns. There is no way to know if you will be admitted next time, so it might be risky to leave the US at this point. You should definitely consult with a professional to evaluate your situation. Often, however, couples choose to get married and go with the process to be able to be done with this once and for all. Plus, the timelines are looking pretty good these days. Before we jump there, I should mention that you will be looking into the process called marriage adjustment of status, which basically means that you will be applying for a green card inside the US. You can learn more on this in this video. Speaking of timelines, on average, the members of our marriage immigration method get their work permit in about 60 days and their green cards in less than 6 months. So right now is definitely a good time to apply. I mean, you want to go into this process knowing that it can take well over a year, but you might be pleasantly surprised. Moreover, unfortunately, immigration always suffers from unstable political conditions in America, and things always change when we get a new president in the office. That is why another consideration for you might be, well, maybe I should apply before the elections in November of 2024. We've had so many fast combo cards and green card approvals in the last few months. I wonder if they are pushing more and more approvals to show better numbers. Finally, if you have any questions that I haven't covered in this video, please drop them in the comments so we can get back to you, and please share your experience if something like this just happened to you as well. Otherwise, give this video a like and we will see you next time.